So you get one action per turn, and one of your actions that you can take is to develop a show. And this is one of the most important actions you can take in the game. So let's say we want to replace this show, Let's Pickle, with this show, The Wacky TSA Agent. So I'm picking this show because this show wants to be on at 9 p.m. and we have a 9 p.m. time slot with a show that isn't really doing much for us. So the first thing is this show has a development cost of $1, so we have $7 here, so we're going to pay $1 to the bank, and now we've paid the development cost. So now we're going to replace the show, so we're going to take Let's Pickle, and we're going to put it over here into our reruns area. And I like to flip the card over here because it tells you how much the show is worth as a rerun. So let's turn back over here to the Wacky TSA Agent. So one thing about this show is it requires a star. So you must have a star, and that's a must, not a may. You must have a star available to put this show on. Fortunately, you start the game with a star and an ad in your green room. So, going back here, we, as part of the develop show action, we actually take this star from our green room and we add it to the show. So now we fulfilled the show's requirement of 1 star, exactly 1 star. And then we're going to take this cube, we're going to put it at the top, and what this means, in the first season, since we were able to put this show on at the proper time slot, this show is going to get 8 viewers, plus 1 viewer for the star, so that's a total of 9 viewers. Now don't forget our rerun also, our rerun will get us 1 viewer as well, so that's a total of 10 viewers we're now going to score at the end of the season, because all scoring happens at the end of the season. Now this part is really important. At the end of each season, we're going to age our shows. So next season, the Wacky TS Agent is going to score us a total of 7 viewers. Now about this star over here, this particular star scores 1 viewer in the first 3 seasons, but there are other stars. Let's grab. This here is the Celebrity Chef. So Celebrity Chef, if we have Celebrity Chef as the Wacky TSA Agent, if we have the show on in its proper time slot of 9 p.m., the show would get 10 viewers, and in the second season would only get 9 viewers. And of course, third season, the show would bottom out. Now, what happens if we put this show on at the wrong time slot? Glad you asked. If we put this show on at 8 or 10 p.m., the show would only get us 5 plus 2 viewers, so it only scores 7 instead of 10 viewers. So all of the shows would be worth fewer viewers in the first season if they're not on at the proper time slot. Okay, so let's say we're a little later in the game, and now we have a develop show action that we want to take again, and this time we have our sights set on a different show. Let's say we want to get very charismatic explosions. So this show is a little bit different in that this show doesn't require a star, it requires an ad. Fortunately, we start the game with an ad in our green room, and yes, some backers will get to name their ads after a fictional company. So again, this show will cost us $1 of development costs, so here's our dollar, and I'm paying it. Okay, dollar paid. And now we're going to cancel Biennial County Bubble Wrap Popping Tournament. If we canceled the show in the same season as the other show, we're actually just going to lap the cards just like that. And now at the end of the season, we would score 2 viewers of reruns instead of 1. Important, at the end of each season, your reruns will drop into your archive. So you only score each rerun once, and then it drops into your archives. Your archives are important, though, for reasons I will get to momentarily. So then we put on Very Charismatic Explosions with its ad. And since this is the first season of the show, it's going to go on at the first row. Now, it doesn't matter what season you're in. It doesn't matter whether you're in season 2, 3, or 4, or whatever. You always put the cube on in the top row. It's just relative to when you got the show. So all of these 4 rows do matter. So what's going to happen at the end of the season is not only do we score viewers, but we are also going to have a bit of income and expenses. So you'll notice that Very Charismatic Explosions, well, it costs $1 to pick up, but it also costs $1 at the end of each season as part of upkeep costs. However, we have this ad on it, and this ad will actually get us $1. So the net of this is a zero. It's a wash. However, it's something you have to pay attention to because your network might start to run very expensive if you're not careful, and that's when you want to start running those high-value ads or make sure you get money from some other channels, which I'll explain in a moment. So let's talk about these prerequisites for a second. The Wacky TSA Agent requires a star, and Very Charismatic Explosions requires an ad. But there's all sorts of other requirements that shows could have, like for example, Old Folks Complaining has this icon over here, and what this icon means is that this show will take either 1 star or 1 ad. Now notice this icon is gray as opposed to having a color like the other two. That means for this icon it's optional. For this card, for this show, this is optional. You can put 1 star on it, you can put 1 ad on it, or you can choose to not put anything on it, and that's fine. One note about this optional icon is we're actually going to make it a little more colorblind friendly. We're going to lop off the bottom left and upper right corners, and that should help colorblind players a little bit also, because sometimes it's tough to tell these two when they're on their own for players with common forms of colorblindness. So that is an example of one kind of prerequisite, but as you start getting deeper in the game, you have other kinds of prerequisites. Now, Old Folks Complaining, let me bring that back really quickly. This show takes either 1 star or 1 ad, or as I said before, nothing, because that star ad is optional. But you can't put both a star and an ad on that show. However, as you start to get into later seasons, you start to see shows like this, like Criminal Mindfulness over here, must have a star, but may have an ad. So you don't have to put the ad on, but you must put the star on. Now, you're not allowed to just hold on to a show. If you're going to put Criminal Mindfulness, you must have that star in your green room, and you must pay the $5. So there is some planning that you need to do in order to acquire these shows. So let's look at some other shows. Cringe over here actually requires both the star and the ad. Dexterous over here, you must have a star, and then you may put a second star or an ad. Then you've got your reality shows like The Baccalaureate here, and The Baccalaureate, you must have 1 ad, and you may have a second ad. And then of course you've got your sports shows, and your sports show over here, you can have 0, 1, or 2 ads. No stars because they're all athletes. They're not going to come from the same meat grinder that your stars come from. And you'll notice one thing about the sports shows, like real sports shows, these shows are very expensive to keep on the air, but they can be pretty lucrative if you have a lot of ads, and you'll see how lucrative ads can be in a moment. And of course, there are some shows that you can really go crazy with, like for example, Found must take a star, must take an ad, and may take a star or an ad. So now that we've gotten a couple of shows out, you'll notice that there's 3 shows remaining. And this is sort of a central tenet in the game. Every time you take an available card, well, that's it. It's gone for the rest of the season. You're only going to refill at the start of the next season, and you're going to discard anything that was out from the previous season. So at the start of each new season, you're going to discard the cards that were remaining, and then you're going to draw a new combination of cards. But in this example, now that we've taken 2 shows, there's only 3 shows left, and that's assuming that the other players didn't take any shows. So, we're a couple of turns in. We've got a pretty good network, at least a start of a good network over here, and now maybe we can do some more actions. So we've taken a develop show action on our first turn, and we took another develop show action on our second turn, and we've got 2 shows to show for it, so to speak. So now, what are some of the other actions we can do?